In this video, we're going to learn how to use the IDBE Ribbon Creator Tool to modify the existing ribbon in an existing Accdb. Double-click the desktop icon to load it. When the IDBE Ribbon Creator first loads, it will find the most recently used database and load the ribbons from it. I'm going to show you, if you don't want to work on the most recently used one, you can use the Access database navigation to find and load another database. Let's just go back and take the one that was offered as the most recent document, because that's the one we're going to edit. When it finds that database, it opens it and loads the USys ribbons table from within that database. In this case, I have two. There's a dev version and a prod version. I'm going to go ahead and be brave here and edit the production version. When we select the ribbon, it loads it into the tool, and this is going to look and work. Well, it's going to look exactly like it will look in the Access database. In this case, our ribbon has one tab with 8 groups. Orders, customers, trucks, products, tickets, discounts, reports, and miscellaneous. Orders, customers, trucks, and as you can see, as we select each item in the list, the label for it is loaded into the editing panel on the right, and we can change that name or update it as needed. For example, if we decide that's too long, we want to shorten it to Miss, hit the rename button, and that immediately reflects the change in the group. Let's put it back the way it was and look at the controls. Within each group, there are multiple controls. In this ribbon, all of the controls happen to be buttons. There are other types of controls you can use, but we're working only with buttons. So we have a button for history transfer, a button for deleting invoice history, and a button for quitting or closing the database. There are several properties, but the 3 or 4 that we mostly are interested in here are the label, the image, the control ID, and the code that runs in the callback on that button. This is a VBA function written specifically to support the ribbon. Built into the tool are the Windows icon gallery with dozens, probably hundreds of icons that are built into the tool, and you can select and use any of those. You can also create and use your own custom image. I have never found a reason to do that. The control ID is a combination of the prefix, and the standard for that is button, and the name. And the callback is a specific piece of code written in VBA that carries out the action for that button. As you can see, it contains 3 parts. In the beginning, it has an equal sign, followed by the name of the VBA function, and it has to be a function, not a sub, and the argument, numeric argument, passed to that function when you click the button. Notice again, this one is $9.99 on the quit button. All actions require a numeric argument. Okay, let's look at a different one. And as you can see, it has the same equal ribbon action buttons with a different argument. Depending on which argument is passed, different functions are triggered in the Access database. Okay, so what we're going to do now is add a new button in the Orders group. click the button to insert the new button. It by default is given the next number in sequence, so it's going to be called our button 18. We're changing the label on it to Archive Orders. Click the Rename tab to make sure it selects that name. Select an image for it, or an icon. In this case, we're looking for one. Oh, I want to use normal view here. We're looking for one called Archive because there is an existing icon called Archive. Double click it. It's inserted as the image or the icon for this particular button. Now by default it's going to be the large size, so I'm going to switch it to normal so it floats underneath the other two existing buttons. Give it a new name reflecting its new function, which is Archive Orders. Verify that it's acceptable to the XML. And if we get it to accept that, then we click OK. And now we have a new button called Button Archive Orders that has, actually right now it has default code. The On Action button is the default callback that is supplied by this tool for all new buttons. Click Cancel here, because what we're going to do as a shortcut to make sure we don't make any mistakes is go to a different button, copy out the callback from it, go back to our Archives button, paste that over it, and change the argument to a new one. Now I picked 19 because I know that that's the argument I want to use here. When you click this button now, it will call that function and pass it argument 19. And that is about it as far as the necessary changes to make. We're going to update our Access database with the new ribbon that we just modified. Click the Update Access Database tab. It opens that database, inserts the code into it for the ribbon globals. Click OK to save it and close it, and now we're done. There are some other options you can change here. For example, you can set this as the application ribbon. You can set it for only particular forms or reports. I generally leave the standard ribbons available, although for a deployed production database, I might hide the built-in ribbons and only show my custom ribbon. I'm going to hit Update Access Database just to double check, just to be double sure that I actually did save it correctly, and now I'm going to quit. I'm done. I have a new button in my ribbon. The next step is to open the Access Accdb itself. I'm going to go find it. Give me a second here while we navigate through the Windows Explorer. Find the database, double click to open it. When it opens, we're going to need to kind of adjust it a little bit to get it to fit our narration window for this video. Give me a second to adjust that. Shrink it down in size, move it around a little bit, make sure we can see the parts that we need to see, which are the code and the tables. We'll look at the Visual Basic. When it opens the Visual Basic modules, it will go to the most recently updated one, and this is that basic ribbon globals that we saw added or updated when we hit the update button. Next thing I want to do is find that ribbon action buttons function, take out my equal sign because that's only in the ribbon itself, not within the code. Take out the arguments, search the entire project, find it, and there it is. Okay, again, let's adjust this a little bit so we can see the entire thing. We pass in the number from that button as an integer to this function. If that comes in as anything less than 999, we're going to do two things. We find the data mode in this table called ribbon items, and we find the appropriate form name from that same table. If it's 999, then we hit the else branch and we launch the message, do you want to quit, and close. And now you can see why I picked 999. That gives us all the way from 0 through 998 as options to put into our controls in the ribbon. That should be way more than we really need in most ribbons. If that form is already loaded, we requery it, set focus to it. If it isn't already loaded, then we're going to go ahead and open it. And that's really all that callback function does. It's not particularly complicated. Let's look at the two tables that drive this. One is a custom table that I built specifically for this application. It has three fields: the items, the item ID, and the ribbon action. And there's the one we just added, item 19, which is the history form. And the ribbon action is going to be 0, which I believe is edit. You'll see that there's another existing button which does exactly the same thing. It opens that same form in the other mode, which would be add. Or is it the other way around? I never remember which is which. It doesn't matter as long as it works. The USys ribbons table is a built-in, is a system table that's normally hidden in the navigation pane. Users won't normally see it unless you show them how to use the navigation pane options to expose hidden and system tables. The ribbons table itself contains, as you saw when we were in the ribbon editor, development and production. We came in here because we're brave and edited the production version. It is written in XML and it has certain standard contents and features. I never, or almost never, try to edit directly in this table. It's very sensitive to minor syntax errors. If you make any minor mistake, it will not load that ribbon completely. You don't just get a bad ribbon, you get no ribbon. You can see there's my existing edit order, and there's the new archive orders that we just added as a new button. Close it without saving it. And that's pretty much it as far as how this works. If we click the archive orders button, now it opens this form called history.